Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is the most recent main entry in the Xenoblade series as of this video, and it was released back in 2017, and thinking about that is kind of weird since it's been about 4 years since then. But, of course, in that time, there was plenty of unused content that was found on the cartridge of the game, and I actually want to go over that today. And if you're actually expecting a likes and dislikes, I already did that a week or two ago as of, again, this video. So if you want to check this out, I will link that video in the description. And honestly, let's just get straight into the video. And one of the things I actually want to go over is some unused assets the game has. And no, I'll just go over the ones I found most interesting. And to start off, there was actually some early item icons along with there being some unfinished alt icons. I actually do think the unfinished alt icons look pretty nice for the most part, and I kind of wish they actually ended up finishing them just because, again, they look nice. Then there was some unused squares, which might have been used for some of the blade art, along with it also being multicolored, so, they could have just attached these to the different element depending on which one they needed. And the next one is similar, but it's a bit longer, and it's been guessed that it could have been used for the Fallout backgrounds. Then we have two for the blade affinity charts, and one of them is a very early version of it. In the final game, it is reversed among all the smaller differences. And then the second one, it looks a lot closer to the final one, but again, it's just flipped. Then we have a similar one for the driver affinity chart, and this one is a bit closer to how the final game is, but again, it was unused. Then there was a bunch of icons for the collectible items that went unused, and this was assumed that it could have been for a collectopedia. I kinda do wish this was in the game because this and Torna are the only ones not to feature one. Another icon that went unused has to be a bunch of hot ones, and it was guessed that could be used for party member affinity, which is weird that it wasn't in the game as well. And now relating to drivers, there actually is a version of all the character art when you see them in the menus, where Zeke and Moag is unshaded for some reason. And then there is some unused art for Pyra, and one of them is just assumed to be here because it is some random blade art, but it looks very similar to if you think about, this could have been the beta version of Pyro. And then we have her using Mythra and numerous colors, and this was actually meant to be placeholders for when you awaken them. And then there is unused driver art, and this one could have been Rex, only because he kind of does look like a main protagonist, at least to me, and it's kind of like the closest I can think of in terms of like all the characters that are in the game. Then we also have an image of Pyro that was taken from a design sheet, and this one was just used as a placeholder for Numa art. Along with that, we have a huge amount of character icons that were unused, and they're either not finished or just a concept version of them. Characters like Poppy Alpha were used in the early build, which was shown at E3 2017. Then we have changes to one of the other Poppy forms, that being Cutie Pie, in where she has brown hair instead of purple hair. Mythos to me also doesn't really look like anything in game, but I still do think it's nice art, and of course just a lot of the other ones, like the other Poppy form I didn't mention kind of looks weird, but I think that's kind of just expected because it is just unused art. And then we actually have some really early art of some common blades, those being the axe common blade for both genders, along with them without weapon, and we also have an early version of the dog blade. Also back to the male common blade without a weapon, and this one was actually used in the E3 2017 Nintendo Treehouse presentation. There also is an image of Pyro wearing the disguise she does in Chapter 2, and it was most likely made to replace her icon in the menu for that time period. There also was some art of Rex with Gramps, but in this case Gramps was unshaded. Along with that, there were some really old item category icons along with some early pouch items. Other early icons definitely have to be some coal crystals, where for whatever reason the last one is just pure purple. And there also is a super blurry screenshot, and it looks like it was taken from Xenoblade X for whatever reason. And something else that's kind of interesting was there was a quest thumbnail that went unused, and it looks very unfinished, as you can probably tell. But of course this one was replaced with a more finished one later on. There is also a placeholder for the title screen, which looks really nice, along with some unused logos. The first one I'm showing is an alternate version of the Japanese one, but it doesn't have any flames around the letters. This next one is the exact same thing, but it's for the international version. Then we have some icons for the character specials, and it does show the V Roman numeral, and in the final game we never saw this because it only went up to 4. and these next three I want to go over quickly. First, we have an old drawing of Rex, which looks nice, and then an image for a menu that hasn't been done yet, which is pretty funny to me. And finally, we have a corrupt image of Pyra, and this might have been a placeholder for the event Theo cutscene. And now we finally move on from unused graphics, and the first thing I want to go over is some unused enemies. This first one was in the E3 2017 demo, and it is called When Bushes Velcro, and it's flagged as a unique monster, but it has no drop table for whatever reason. I will show the skill sets on screen, so pause if you want to. We also have another new unique monster called the Relentless Automan, and it's very similar to the Relentless Autodan, and they share the same levels. There are also some generic drivers, and funny enough, even though that they have soldier in the name, they're probably not related to the Ordanian soldiers. But they were supposed to be story bosses, and considering they were level 9 and 10, they were probably meant to be fought super early on. Then we have some unused enemy summons, and they were just sovereign type enemies. They were meant to be summoned by the Valorant of the Transfer Gate art, and these ones were similar to the normal counterparts, so maybe that's why they went unused. And then we have some unused items which I'll show on screen, along with some unused pouch item, or at least, yeah, just item, there's only one. There was also two unused cold creatures, which one of them always gave you a wind elemented blade, which was a common and an ether organic. The other would generate a ice elemented one with a great axe, and it's been guessed that this was related to that wind knuckle you get at the start of the game, so maybe it could have given you one of these three at random when you started up. There also was some text that went unused at the final cutscene when Mythra and Pyra come back to life. In the code, it actually is there, but just doesn't show up in the cutscene, but is based on whatever you pick at the start of chapter 7, and what it says is, "Hello Rex, I'm Pyra," or Mythra, depending again on who you pick. Now moving on to some early game stuff, and there are also some inaccessible weapon names for Jin, Rex, and Malos. Jin's weapon is named Masamune, Rex has a junk sword, and Malos has Thanatos. For Jin and Malos, you can't even see the weapons due to the fact that you can't open the menu for them, and since Malos does have several, he does wield a different weapon in New Game Plus when you do get him as a blade. And for Rex, you just can't see the name of his sword despite the fact that you can open the menu for him. There are also some unused enemy arts, one of which is Dark Force, which is a wind ether art that inflicts blowdown. It has been said that this was made for the Elk enemy, and it was a bit stronger than another skill called Force of Nature. There's also a whole bunch of random other enemy arts, which I'll show on screen. There are also some unused voice clips, one of which is Rex saying Pyritha, which is guessed to be the name of Numa before the name would actually be called out in the story. There's also a voice line for Morag calling out Jormok's name, which is impossible considering the only people that can use Jormok is Rex and Nia. And for Jin and Malos, their favorite items went unused, since again you can only use them for a short time. And for Jin, in the Golden Country DLC, his favorite items were changed. But in the base game, Jin likes oyster stir fry and the Millennium Titan, along with liking staple foods and seafood. Malos, on the other hand, likes grilled anchor tail and the Argentum noodle soup, along with liking desserts and art. Then we have something kind of funny with the Orifice Ophion, where on normal difficulty its strength stat technically goes unused. This is because it does not auto attack and it only uses either arts. And that's pretty much all the stuff I found to be the most interesting for Xenoblade 2 for all the unused content. For me, a lot of the unused graphics were pretty cool and all of the unused enemies and arts were also pretty interesting. But I want to hear what you guys found interesting. Let me know in the comments below, and thank you all for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and follow me on Twitter, link in the description, and see you guys later.